I've spent the past 2 weeks absolutely addicted to Aloft, uncovering my map and unlocking all of the machines needed to build and decorate my cozy base, which, as you can probably tell, is one of my favorite parts of the game. But I've made a lot of mistakes along the way and took a ton of notes on my struggles and aha moments, and have crammed all of this research into my top 14 Aloft tips and tricks that I've learned after 60 hours of gameplay. I know that's a lot. It's kind of embarrassing. Let's hop to it. Tip number 1 is clothing perks. As soon as you find the leaf leg wraps and apron and chests, wear them. Watch this. The leg wraps are off. Notice how high I can jump. But I put them on and see how much higher I jump? I can hop right over to my helm. And the leaf apron helps to protect you in the rain, so try new clothing out as you discover it. It's a big difference, and I imagine there will eventually be more clothing as Aloft progresses through early access. Food buffs are the second tip, and I can make a whole video about the various recipes and benefits, but one of my favorites for harvesting double resources is the production buff. Gnocchi is one recipe that provides the production perk and can be made with eggs, potatoes, and flour. Watch as I harvest 1 bone and 1 cactus on an empty stomach. Then I eat the gnocchi. And now I harvest double the cactus and bone, got 2 carrots instead of 1, and even harvested double the hardstone, which is a very valuable resource. Tip number 3 is health and momentum. The red bar on the bottom left is your health, and the white bars are your momentum. Lying down in any safe open area provides a quick health boost when you can't sleep or don't want to use bandages to heal, and swooping down with your glider is a fast way to recharge your momentum, which you'll need for various combat moves. Just don't try this during a storm, as your glider will get wet and can break. Fourth is map progression. In the beginning, you'll have 3 sectors to explore and must travel counterclockwise to the right. It won't let you travel left. I tried. The later sections and winds seem to push clockwise, so that's how I progressed after I crossed the first border upwards and into the remaining sectors. And that brings us to border crossing, which is tip number 5. You can't cross the blue border into the northern sectors until you upgrade your leaf sails into wool sails, and you'll need plenty of extra wool cloth for repairs. Having a small maneuverable island helps too, especially if playing solo. The asteroid border is quite intimidating, but try to maneuver through the giant rocks and explosive smaller black rocks, repairing your sails as needed. My strategy of going very slowly wasn't working in the strong winds, so I eventually just pushed through mid-power, pausing to repair the sails. And then as quickly as it began, the rocks parted to tranquil skies. But this is the make your palms sweat excitement I love in survival games. But I was glad it was over. But how do you get the wool cloth for the sails? Tip number 6 is to prioritize the question marks on your map. If you want to expedite your progress in the game, head for the question marks as soon as possible. These are the areas that hold key technology like windmills to power your machines, the sawmill, and also the loom to make wool. For those who don't mind a spoiler, I'm going to show, and only show, not say it aloud, where you can find the loom for the wool cloth. If you don't want to look, skip ahead to the next section. But I will now circle the island where I unlocked the loom. Tip 7 is to choose your starter island wisely. As you're scouting for island candidates to become your ship and home base, first use your spyglass to make sure the island's not too heavy. If you see the kilogram abbreviation symbol, the island is too heavy and big to fly. But you don't want to get an island that's too small either, like I did. Yes, it's incredibly easy to maneuver, but I'm limited to 14 animals, which we'll talk about later, and I have no water source, which isn't a huge deal because I can get lots of water on nearby islands, but it's an inconvenience. In fact, as soon as I'm finished with this video, my next task is making a new home island that's a little larger and has a water source. Though I absolutely hate the idea of giving up this island. I've put so many hours into making my homestead cute and cozy with small touches like lighting, flowers, rugs, and baskets to soften the aesthetic. But I really would enjoy a waterfall serenading me at sunset. When you find an island you want to mark as a potential home island to go back to later, you can use beacons, which is tip number 8. Beacons add symbols that can be seen through the map and spyglass. Different beacons have different symbols, so choose the symbol you want. Currently, even a simple log beacon creates the triangle symbol, so that's what I'll use. Then return to your island and look at the map. Do you see the dark shadow around the island? Make sure you have the symbol toggled on the right, or they won't show on your map. And then when we look through our spyglass, there is now a little triangle symbol below the island, which is absent on other islands that we haven't marked. I wish the beacons would instead add a colorful light beacon that's easier to see, but maybe that'll come in future updates. Tip 9 is the 4 uses of the funny little tool called the Dorkip. You'll need it to till the ground in your farming plots before planting seeds. You can use it to dig for hidden treasure chests whenever you see rocks in X or O formations, or just in random unmarked spots like this one. The Dorkip is also great for digging up worms and beetles whenever the guide tells you they're present on an island. You'll eventually unlock a worm box to get worms, but the Dorkip is much faster. And the 4th use is as a spear for jumping and popping the yellow corruption node pimples that are up too high to get with your knife, but you don't have a bow and arrows. Now, let's talk about animals as tip number 10. If you ever see this red little people symbol above your animals' heads, it's because your island is overcrowded. Now the animals won't die, but they won't produce in these conditions. My tiny island seems to have a maximum of 14 animals, and I hate saying goodbye, but I had to send this little guy packing. You also have to feed your animals to harvest their products and poop. Hay is for sheep, goats, and alpaca, and pheasants eat grain. You can feed them by hand or in troughs. I only feed my animals when I'm ready to harvest their wool and milk. The pheasant eggs and feathers can just drop and sit on the ground, so I'll feed pheasants as much grain as I can. But if you feed your sheep, goats, and alpaca and then don't shear or milk them shortly thereafter, you'll lose your window of harvesting and will just have to feed them again later when you're ready for wool and milk. So just let them go hungry unless you're ready to shave and milk them. But what if you're on an island that's too far to transfer animals? Well, you can despawn your island and respawn it to your current location, which is tip number 11. I use this when I find a resource-rich island and want a faster way to hop back and forth to my home island, but it's great for animal exchange as well. For number 12, here are my favorite homesteading tips that were a bit of a struggle until I figured them out. You'll need a bucket and dirty or clean water to water your crops. You can craft a leaf bucket early on and then later get a milk bucket recipe. Either bucket works fine for watering. When you want to craft a cogwheel for your machines, it needs a strange yellow-green substance in a cup. This is mictor grease, I think that's how you say it, which you must first craft by grinding the mictor fibers from the evil plant dudes in the same grinding machine you use to make sugar, salt, grain, and flour. Whenever you craft on your island, resources are pulled from your storage chests, and you can lock the chest if you want to protect the items from being used as ingredients. Seeds you harvest from the wild plants in each biome also make great decor around your base, and you can even pop them into containers that aren't intended for this purpose, but they look pretty darn cute and make your home extra cozy. And if your windmill isn't spinning very fast to make your machines run quickly, experiment with turning your ship so the wind direction catches the windmill blades better. Seems like a no-brainer, but it took me a while to figure it out. I guess that says a lot. Tip 13 is to use keyboard shortcuts and cheat commands if needed. F4 is how you quickly swap from first to third person, which is an awesome feature. While you're sailing, tap the F key or down on the right joystick for a detailed view at your sail performance. You'll be able to see which sails are obstructed by objects or other sails and can then move them to a better spot, and you'll see how significantly the wind direction impacts the sails. Remember, you'll go much faster with the wind at your stern than pushing on your bow, adding resistance. And then there's the good old F1 key to bring up your command prompt. My favorite commands are unstuck for when, well, the time command to make it easier to see or to expedite the blossoming of nocturnal flowers, and even God mode to become invincible, which has literally been a lifesaver playing Aloft solo when I'm just tired of stressful combat. The full list of commands is on the Aloft wiki, and as I say, there ain't no shame in the cheatin' game if it makes the game more enjoyable, especially when you're playing alone. And finally, tip 14 is the most basic tip on this list. The two main goals of the Aloft game: knowledge and island restoration. Knowledge is acquired from anchors. These are your sailing blueprints, knowledge stones for unlocking technology and other decor blueprints, frescoes, which hold the coveted special blueprints such as the glider, helm, loom, and sawmill, and use your sketchbook everywhere to learn how to make dozens and dozens of building pieces and items. Anytime you're at an abandoned camp or temple where there's evidence of humans, pull out your sketchbook and look all around you for pieces you haven't yet sketched. They'll turn yellow instead of gray if you don't yet know them. And then the island restoration part will require combat to cleanse the corruption and your guidebook for balancing ecosystems. That's the first thing I do on a new island. Refer to my guidebook to see everything that needs found and balanced. Knowledge and island restoration. Those are your main goals. Everything else is just fluff that's really darn fun. Whew! There you go. My top 14 Aloft game tips to help guide beginner players and prevent you from making the same mistakes I did. But what are your favorite Aloft tips? What did I forget? Let me know in the comments 1 or 2 bits of wisdom you want to share with other Aloft players. And if you don't want to miss out on the latest in chill and cozy sim and survival games, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.